Ken here at Waters Garden Center, and we're talking weeds with John Ford. He is the garden expert extraordinaire with Bonite Company. His company's actually made a lot of the products that work so well here in the mountains of Arizona. So we're trying to capture his expertise on all the different products. Here we've got basically 4 different weed killers. Which one is best? And so I thought we'll go with Ford. Ford, welcome to Waters Garden Center. Glad you're here. So how can you explain weed killers, and where do people even start with this wall of death and decay?
Well, let's start at that end of the shelf. Is perhaps the best way to do it. Weed Beater Ultra is a post-emergent weed control, which means that it kills the weed after it comes out. So you got to see them coming up. And it's best sometimes that you actually water your weeds or encourage them to come up so that the weed killer works better. This is a concentrate form that's designed to be mixed either in a hose end sprayer or in a tank sprayer, sprayed onto the surface content of the leaves. The weed absorbs it, takes it down to its root system and kills it out. One of the advantages of Weed Beater Ultra over the competition is that it works in cooler temperatures. It starts to work at 45 degrees, where your typical weed killer takes about 72 degrees or so.
I can tell you that truly does work, because I've sprayed the dandelions in my own yard. By the end of the day, they're starting to wilt and vaporize, even when it's below 60 degrees or so. So it's when it's cool out, early midwinter, early spring, Weed Beater Ultra is the way to go. And you can use this even in lawns.
That's correct.
So a rock lawn or even a grass lawn, it'll take out all the weeds without killing the grass.
All the broadleaf weeds.
Broadleaf weeds.
Right. Does not kill grassy weeds.
So what kind of grassy weeds, what are we talking about? Is it crabgrass? Kill that? Or?
No, it will not kill crabgrass.
What about foxtail?
Will not kill foxtail.
Okay, that's good to know. So all your broadleaf. Broadleaf would be, well, anything that's got a big wide leaf. There you go. Kills them.
Palmate venation, where it looks like the veins in the leaf look like a palm. And any leaf that is parallel or any vein that is parallel, that's a grass.
Gotcha. So they're doing that. They want to switch to grasses. Let's say foxtail's up right now. You switch to cleanup.
Cleanup is a non-selective weed control. What you spray on, you kill. What you miss, you don't kill. The foliage must be there. In a concentrate or in a ready-to-use, ready-to-use trigger sprayer, if you just spray it on dirt, it has no control over the weeds. The weed has to be there, and it absorbs into the plant system and can take up to a week to 10 days before you see results. And in the cooler temperatures here, Ken, you may actually take 30 days or so to kill the weed if it's applied in early spring when the temperature.
But basically, if you spray it, it's going to die.
It's going to die.
Just a matter of time.
Right.
That's good to know.
Right. And here in the ready-to-use, we do have a marker. There's a dye in it that allows you to know, where you sprayed. So that's important if you're trying to cover a great area. The concentrates do not come with a dye. This is enough in here for, I believe, 12,000 square feet.
It's a lot of gallons. Yeah, it's good. Economical. Hey, we should show folks what that looks like. You can kind of get that on film. Clean up. Doesn't affect the soil. Only affects the weeds. So you could spray this on your garden area. It's not going to affect the lettuce you're going to plant later or the grass you're going to plant later. And then the Weed Beater Ultra, there's the concentrate. Is that coming up okay? So you kind of take a look at that. Weed Beater Ultra. This one works much more effectively when it's really cold and much faster at killing weeds. This is kind of my first line defense, Weed Beater Ultra. And then my second line would be the cleanup. And this is a much more economical value than a Roundup or some of those. And I think with the dye and some of the other products that Bonite's put together, it's a better product than Roundup. Works quite effectively. I would say one other tip I would put into that, anytime you're using a concentrate that's any of these bigger bottles, this makes like 16 gallons worth. Always add spreader sticker in the same bottle. So you want the cleanup or the Weed Beater Ultra and the spreader sticker all added into the same bucket. Now what this does, this makes the killer actually coat the foliage so the plant absorbs more of the product faster and more completely. So you get a better knockdown and faster knockdown by adding the spreader sticker. Anytime I'm using a bug killer or a weed killer, spreader sticker automatically goes into that tank. Okay, John, now we've got, it kills everything. It kills broadleaf weeds. Then we get into what else we got down the line.
Brush killer type products. Brush killers are designed to work through foliage or through bark. It can be applied directly to the plant material, and the time for reaction, I would say anywhere between a week to 10 days, maybe even a little bit longer than that. Sap's like syrup. When it's cold it doesn't run, so if I'm hitting a big blackberry or some kind of perennial that you have growing up in this area that's invasive, it'll take about a week to 10 days for it to turn brown.
So the wild elms, the oaks, locusts,
There you go.
some of these kind of really very aggressive, they sucker every place. You're using brush killer. Let me just show folks what that is. Brush killer is, this is Roundup on steroids, folks. This is hardcore stuff. Again, doesn't affect the soil, right?
And it
affects
doesn't,
the plant.
and it doesn't affect your lawn either. It can be used as a broadleaf weed killer in lawns. It does
Really?
not
I
affect,
did not know that.
does not affect lawns at all. So it's only going to kill broadleaf weeds, and does have quite a host of weeds that it can be sprayed on in and around the home.
Gotcha. Now, I cut down a willow tree. It was about this big around. And willows you're famous for, you cut them down, they start suckering from that cambium layer, that outer live area. And so I took a drill bit, about a 1/2 inch thick, and I drilled around that outer edge so that I could pour more of that brush killer right around the cambium layer, right at that outer where the bark meets the wood, so it could absorb more of it, and it wiped that tree right out. It didn't even think about coming back, because I wanted that thing gone. I used the brush killer, and that's how it works out. I used it on a wild oak, scrub oak. The acorns were coming up every place. I'd killed off the main tree, and then I had some ready to use. I pre-mixed some in a tank sprayer. About once a month I'd go out and spot the new suckers that would come over, those oak, just the nuts that would come up. I would spot those, and it took about 6 months. Finally I had no more oaks coming up in that area, completely obliterated that entire area of oaks. Highly effective.
Right, and the good thing is that it can be used around desirable plants without root uptake. You don't have to necessarily worry about a tree's canopy overhanging an area where it's being treated. You have to get the product on the leaf of the weed you're trying to control in order to get
So
the
very,
control.
very directional. You got to hit that plant and it'll die. If you don't hit that plant, it won't transfer over. It doesn't affect the soil and bleed over to the other plants around it.
And it is co-labeled for the stump control. I mean, it's fully regulated for that. So
Really?
that's actually on the label. He was following the labeled instructions.
There we go. Thank you very much. That's the way you always read the directions. And then last we got Vegetation Killer.
Right, the vegetation killers of yesteryear used to be pramitol or prometone, and they readily mixed with water and would carry down slopes, could potentially kill a tree that you use it underneath the canopy. These types of products are the newer generations. Without getting into specifics, it does not travel in the soil well or as deep, and prevents vegetation growth for up to a year without as damaging results as the old vegetation. So you would use this where you're going to put up a shed, or in a driveway where you have gravel, or in the cracks in a driveway where you don't want the weed to recover anytime soon. It's roughly a year depending on the porosity.
So let's show the folks. It's called Vegetation Killer. And I'm nervous selling this product to just about anyone, just because it's so complete, and it does affect. The reason I carry it on the shelf is I use this product out in the tree racks around the nursery to keep weeds from coming up in the walkways, where I just don't want to be weeding and having the staff taking care of that. Down the driveway, along the road, where weeds get really large, I'll use this just as a longer term solution. I try not to use this underneath trees. I try not to use it around bushes. I don't use it because it can, I've noticed it can affect some of those plants. There I'll use the cleanup, some of the other products. It's much more effective. But this one, where I don't want anything to grow, I don't have other roots growing in there, and I don't want any tumbleweeds, horehounds, foxtail, those nasty weeds that roll in, I use this, and it keeps it at bay for a long period of time.
Another adder there, a good rule of thumb, if this were the tree's canopy, keep it about 3 feet or so from the edge of the canopy if you're going to use this product around established trees and shrubs. And if the tree's been there for 30 years, I would make that run to actually be about 15 to 20 feet. just to be on the
That's
safe
good
side.
advice. Also, I wouldn't use that where I've got dry creek beds, because the water can lift it, carry it downhill, and then it can affect other plants downhill. The last thing you want to do is use a permanent weed killer and then affect your neighbor's tree they just planted 3 years ago, and all of a sudden it's starting to show effects. That's just common sense kind of stuff. But anyway, if you have more questions on how to kill weeds, come look at us, talk to us at Waters Garden Center. We can help you get just the right product to kill your weeds at your house.